Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Brendan Kennelly.
No sooner downstairs after the night's rest and in the door than you started to dance a step in the middle of the kitchen floor.
Rud a han riil van wat keiko hjolver is vi aga.
Da vi rodegen specialte på Brendan. Sais a fasan tucht instincts na dan te koma on passan sin expansive agus mór agus graver agus granúr.
Hig sé conas driocht de vocal a bella amach agus é hort amach, you know. Agus sais kjol é sin. Kjol na vocal.
It is the moment before the dance begins. Your lips are enjoying themselves, whistling an air. Whatever happens or cannot happen in the time I have to spare, I see you dancing, Father.
Rugadh an fille omráteach Brendan Kennelly mi aibre an 1936. Dá sé níos sa méla Longfort de dúsgurt chéirí agus bheith tunchar ag an tógála furse ina chud filiachta. Chur sé niúla na híhir gur ceantar lehevíán, sefir ó híh na cainte, scéalta, óráin agus bailéid.
He was born in the older family home first, which was up the street from the pub that they then bought when he was in his early teens. He had 5 brothers and 2 sisters. His father ran the garage and later on the pub. And his mother had trained as a nurse, one of the first women, in the early 20th century who trained as a district nurse.
Cudú edachas sa scoil náisiúnta áitiúil agus an sinne meán scoil níomh iide sa Tarbert. Áit ar bhuaise gur hit sé an rá leis an méarla, litríocht agus focla.
Did my leaving cert in 1953, and there was a great woman there. Her name was Jane Agnes McKenna, and she had a terrific love of learning, which she instilled into me and all the other students. When I was growing up, I was writing ballads and songs for fellows who were going to England. They'd come into you and they'd say, look, I'd like to have a song about Pauline or Lena Moore, the townland I come from. And would you write a ballad for me? And I'd write it, and they'd take it away with them.
Bhí cáil Kennelly freisin na sa gazéachtaí ar a barc pelle, agus dimmer sé le minúirí chéirí I gunne átha clia I glyfa I dan na méle phobal le fada an lá.
People from all over Ireland and from further afield head for Cloch, for this is All-Ireland Football Final Sunday. Soon, over 75,000 people are thronging the spacious arena and gazing on the field of action where, first of all, the minor final between Kerry and Dublin entertains handsomely.
Da bhí sé ábalta caid maiol ar an gaid, agus an rud faoi 1954 nóair caid céirí on All-Ireland.
5 minutes from the end and Kerry lead by 5 points.
Ach bhí Brendan, I ngensaí bhir I cúig de ar na riachta, páirteach an achtar a calíiseach dar leis an réiteoir, a chas an tíide I bhábhar átha clia.
Which gives the Metropolitans 3 goals and 3 points to 1 goal and 8.
Agus chuir chun Milan ar Brendan, agus de bhíh sé rá, that was no free.
I lost the All-Ireland for Kerry.
He lost the All-Ireland for Kerry. Honestly, Brendan, I don't see that was a bad foul at all, was it?
It was close enough to it.
Close enough to it.
For Kennelly scoláireacht go coláis na tríóide I 1950, ach nuair a drastal sé an goláise an chéadúid bhreise gur scáfar an áit a bhí an. Bhí sé uignach, agus ní a coppla seachtainna bhí sé imi reis go céirí.
So I got out of it. I just left it. And then when I went back home, I suddenly slowed down and talked to people. And I think that year had a great impact on me. I was idle. I was suddenly just taking things in, watching, observing and seeing. And to me, this is again, the essence of poetry, that you take things easy. Yeah. It's a calm thing, though it's a passionate thing.
Cha Brendan tréimh sin sinna go le bord sa láthair leictreachais, sa le bhreaita sé aithóirt ar Yale chathair London. Fuair sé post mar stúrthóir bus, agus céimhí in na hománaí ar a mosbhealach céna, ach íorthaidhúir dúchrónach, a bhí gnéamhach I dúsgurt chorca le linn cogan na saoirse.
I was brought up, of course, to think that black and tans were terrible murderers, and I suppose they did their share of it. But this fellow was a very human character, and he told me stories about from his point of view.
Yeah.
It opened up a new dimension for me. I was delighted to meet him.
Dil Brendan an saol acadúla go láiste na tríóide ag fáil céim le céad an óiricha I méle agus Frankie sin 1960 héan sal thug sé faoin na ghochtúireacht. Bhá sé héin in na chud scríbnúireacht chomá idir filiocht agus prós.
An céadúir gur tháina mé treis na filiocht Brendan Kennelly ná nuair a chuir sé amach a céad dáir ceiste cóildaí le Rudy Halzapfil bin in 1959 agus bhí sé mar caint na seach baróistí. Cóig an filiocht go mór isteach aigene ach an céadúir go raibh sais popstar I Brendan ná nuair a tháinig an úrscéal amach de Crooked Cross in 1963. De bhí gach duine léamh de Crooked Cross agus bhí sé mar údar míorúltach a gcain.
I wrote a novel about my village. One morning I was standing outside at the Carn and the bus was coming from Ballybunion and going to Limerick. And I counted 11 people getting on the bus and hitting off to Limerick and going to England, presumably. A man near me, young man near me, he spat. And he said, Christ, isn't that an awful sight? And I started writing the novel that day, and I remember a little phrase, if life in little places dies, greater places share the loss. Life, if you like, may not be worth one passing game of pitch and toss, and yet a nation's life is laid in places like the Crooked Cross.
Bhain sé dochtúireacht amach in 1966 agus tugadh postú mar Olaf Cúnta I go láiste na tríóide. Ar bhá seo bhí sé gnothú clúdó héin ag an nám mar ile.
Bhí flúirse na filiochta ón arónaí, agus níananig sé éon athachnamh is bhí déanta aige. Bhí sé ag gcónaí díre an céad dáin eile agus cadasa dacha sé. Tá mé fá ag pléad dáanta duine éigean eile. Bhí chuirigh sé úna ort cé có géir tuiscin na crín is a bhí a léamh an uile sin.
Bhí aithne agam a gcónaí go Brendan Kennelly agus an go scríofa agus an go éonúcha bhí aige. Agus an sin bhí beartaigh mé ar tactaí Cloch na tríóide chun béarla staidir. Agus cínta ceann na fóthainna gur hasagam tactaí Cloch de álann seo ná tuisgur Brendan Kennelly béidir chun bheith duine do a leichdóirí. So sin an kind of bringlóid bhí agam nóair tháinig mé isteach an chéad lá.
Bhí Brendan ina olamh le béarla I 1963 agus 2005. Bhí cáil ar a chud léachtaí. Be vinnig de Vicléin bheith láthair nachra is staidir béarla fiú le gach duine faoi dheasa ag a ríomháistreacht agus a fashion don ábhar.
Bhí anna chud léichdóirí méarla bhí anord nósach agus, bhí kind of bhiochtú beag an áirsach futhú bhíoch sé cinál intimidating. Le Brendan bhí trú asars cara Brendan Kennelly linne like. So thug sé sort of féin bhhuiín dom a bhein seo agus tanmh bhhaint as an áit álan, but cinál intimidating atá seo. An chéad logur méid dul isteach léocht ar Brendan Kennelly. Tháinig sé amach agus thug sé léocht do chreibte seo dún, agus dúirt sé linn. Ná lig de aon den a tonchar bheith acu ort. Bí náfsblocha a chud smaointe. Oscail de intin, oscail gachod, bí ré chun rudí nua eiceáil chun espéiris nua bheith agah. Ná bí rotóca le aondara.
Education is a way of developing your spirit and of helping yourself to express yourself. Education, as I understand it, is letting yourself grow.
Círiach go smir about Brendan, hí dlúhain sa le seachtain na scríbhnóirí lis túthil. Áirithe I measc uais le na litríochta I dúisgurt chéirí.
Tá the famous five on mar an léimiid ortha tá George Fitzmaurice agus Maurice Welsh a scríb The Quiet Man agus in sin Brendan agus Brian McMahon agus John B. Keane.
Círiachas, tarúd special a baint leis, nach bhfuil?
Tá mé cengil le dia.
One of his best friends was John B. Keane from nearby Listowel, and they were very much part of, say, setting up Listowel Writers' Week, and he was very proud of that.
Bhí buan is scéalaíochta ag Brendan, le gná imachtaíon tíl mar insí inspráide aige.
De bhí Brendan ag a baile I Náclí agus I méla an Longford. De bhí an dá áit aige. Na scríb sé anna chuid maríol ar béla an Longford seachas amháin an Crooked Cross tá Lislachtan Abbey aige agus scríb faoin tingtáne inar tógacé agus na daine a dá sé sús leotha.
Before Mike Neligan died, Maloney said, He willed that he wanted to be cremated and to have every grain of his mortal dust scattered abroad in the Shannon. He asked me once, since I was his friend, if I'd scatter him to the Shannon wind. I thought for a while 'twas fearful odd, but there's many a way to go to God, and this was as good as any. Nelligan, I said, I'll be glad to scatter you after you're dead.
Bhíodh sé den nós a géad dul amach is pastóraach ag sé clogar maidin. Thiúrach sé straid na néfa á clia, nó nach meach aine eile ina dúiseacht. Bhí aithne ag ar léirscail na charach ar bhain, is dúirnam nach bhfuil ag aine eile.
Dublin is a city it takes a long time to get to know from the countryman's viewpoint. But once you get to know it, once you get to know Dubliners, they're the salt of the earth, really.
Bhí brenn an oscailte a gcónaí, don saoil, den achtra, den mistéir, den duine déine.
Nuair a bheocht mé im leag clia, de bhéadh sé mar sort of rí Michael O'Neill's pub in Suffolk Street is tócha. Níor a bhagla or an rih ach duine mór de bhí ann agus sais nuair a dhéigean a bheocht a god. Charachta ar mór de ba é, anna cainteór, anna ide, anna cór leor, agus anna cara.
Chas Brendan le Peggy O'Brien, ír chéimi o Massachusetts agus fóisiad den iad ag seascaní. In anion gur chlisear a bósa, idir an dálíonn bhí inína bháin acu, Kristen.
Will you welcome, please, Kristen Kennelly and her dad, Brendan.
Well, Kristen, or Doodle, as we called her, or Dudes, as her father called her, was his only child. They had a very special, close relationship all of their lives.
Do you remember the first time you clapped eyes on her, Brendan?
I do. It was about 10:30 on the 16th of March 1970 in the corridor of the rotunda. And she was wheeling along the corridor. And
she was just minutes old.
Yeah, a couple of minutes old. And I looked at her and she winked at me.
I know, I've been winking at men ever since now.
Gréibh sé dán faoi Doodle nuair a bhí sé 3 bliana d'aois. Dán all-in glóite grábhar sé poem from a 3-year-old. Bhíonn si an rudda a bhíonn si a dhéanamh sa dán a bhíonn si ag bailiú pital na mláhanna. Agus tóid si, and will the flowers die? And will the people die?
And every day, do you grow old? Do I grow old? No, I'm not old. Do flowers grow old? Old things, do you throw them out? Do you throw old people out? And how you know a flower that's old? The petals fall. The petals fall from flowers. And do the petals fall from people too? And will the new young flowers die? And will the new young people die? And why?
Bhí cáilbaint amach ag Brendan Kennelly mar ilasár dhéala, léchtúr agus tráchtara I seas na hochtútaí. Ach bhí na deabhain isteán ach rá.
An céadúir bhualas leis bhí sé hir sa chláiste gorchaigh le léamh a thuairt. Ná, is na léanta sin bhealach tamí dul siúchaí deir na seachtaí tús na hochtaí. Bhí sé an óil. Agus, jeez. Ní éadfá chuirtús leis ná réire. Ra bhéon drochrád riamh a buint leis, right? Ach bhí sé á féise.
He didn't hide the fact that he had a battle with alcoholism. He gave up drink at 50 and he never drank again. And he would have started maybe in his 20s. So there was a period where the alcoholism did take control in his 40s. It was life or death, really.
So da bhí anna willpower aige. Agus nuair a dairig sé as an joc, bhí mé lán siúrálta go nairóg sé go deo, mar bine an sais in a bhí ann.
In the country where I grew up anyway, nobody ever mentioned the word alcoholic. You were just a hard drinker, and people were even admired for it. There was a heroic aura attaching to the great drinkers. A fellow that could drink 30 or 40 pints of a Sunday after a match was a great man. And that's a public reflection of the self-deception that an alcoholic goes in for. He's a great man to tell lies to himself.
Bhí sé macánta, agus bhí sé níos mó den nós aige bheith ag caint ón chrí seachas ón intin.
And getting time back and appreciating other people is one of the great gifts of being freed from that slavery.
He wrote some of his best poetry, his later poetry then, after he gave up the drink, which was a sort of a late flourishing for a great poet and the great poet that he was.
Le linn sihir scríbhneoireachta a bharas cén lechiad blian is omí cnúsach suntasach a dailse sé. Cos le Cromwell in 1983 agus the Book of Judas in 1991.
Agus Cromwell, when a ravéine agsúl lena le héad, ní raibh sé héin agsúl lena le héad.
De bé Cromwell an céad epic a scríb sé, agus thug sé go dtí a ail se hór, agus dúilteag ail se hór dúirt sé go bhfuil seocht le leadan leabhar, agus thug Brendan an leabhar go Beaver Press, agus dailsigh Beaver Press Cromwell in 1983 stóilm.
In world terms, Cromwell was an intensely tolerant man. When it came to Ireland, that tolerance disappeared.
Bhí sé ag snáb a gcuine na srutha, agus bhí pobl ann dá le héad ag an am.
Chúig sé ina haolaíocht isteach in Intin Cromwell, agus scríb sé leabhar go thug sé triscint eile dóin an bhairsín go bhfuil gráid na sasanige dó, you know.
The Book of Judas. Tháinig an leir sin amach ag an am ar am ar é déanamh áhach na far gachród, ar ról an Anglish Catholic agus a zéal, agus éon rud a chur I ghuine an gná tuiscint. Bhí mar I dréimhse den said sin ag an am nuair a tháinig Book of Judas amach.
Are you trying to make a bit of a case for Judas?
I'm trying to make a case for people to understand everything, to open their hearts to the fact that, and not to condemn without hearing people out. Nobody should be condemned without being heard totally out.
Hiomna Brendan a bheithe a alain atá fréimhithe san éanaruchas agus príomháidechas. Hanna filiacht ó bhéal leis níos múna an focail scríofa, éiad an túrim go chóir dáanta a ólam de Glan Bheabhair, agus go bhétaí iad a riint.
He's Professor of English at TCD, now enjoying a sabbatical year. Would you welcome, please, Brendan Kennelly?
Bhíoh sé ar an late show gomininic, hiag Gaburn Gamag or a fiúntas ag baint leis mar í.
What would you say to people who would say that Maloney up and at it is not only bawdy but dirty?
I don't think that's dirty. That's a true story, actually.
Bhíidir ábalta chur an telefísear an late show, agus de bhí Browndown go húntaach ar fad ar an late show.
I mean, who are we to go out into another country and introduce these ideas? What have we done to our own country?
Bhí sé ná dullar an late show, bhí sé ná rudí tábhachtach a rá, ach an sin bhí sé ná pí a crack a bheith aige, agus bhí gail ála an tríd an scáil an telefís aige, agus hiag Gaburn an cocht a bhfuil buinte sin.
Well, there you are. That's why I'm so cheerful.
We have a ringtone. There you go.
Hello?
Hello?
Yes?
Could I speak to Rita Hanley, please?
Who would I say is calling?
Agus níon for derma go brach ar achtra a tháinig iníra dú ar in ar fad, an ich gur haring Brendan an an bootsora amach as an hatta.
Tá daoine fós a play an nóméid sin ar an late show, agus an cumas a bhí Gaburn, rud é gona dhéanamh leis an nóméid tragóideach seo.
Were you watching the show tonight?
I was. My daughter died last night.
Oh, no. Oh, dear, Rita. I'm very sorry. Oh, dear, oh, dear. How old was she, Dot?
Pardon?
How old was she?
33 years of age.
And why did she die?
Are you being funny?
No. What did
she
she...
was knocked down. She had a fatal car crash last night.
I'm at a loss to know what to say to you, Rita.
I know. Since Linda has died last night, there's a lot of little things have happened like that. And she posted the card for me.
Céimh sí an aca leis? Brendan Kennelly, Fila, Dinner grove grá ag an galéir dó, dinner le féin bhuinin ina go féin. So héig Gaber, go bhéitoch sé casa timp go dtí Brendan Kennelly agus nach bheoch sé sin sin rá, níl sam céird le rá. Fí loirch bán héig Brendan Kennelly céird le rá.
Brendan, would the poem fit in here? We're way over time, but I know you had a poem.
I'll say it for Rita. It's a poem about beginning. Begin again to the carolling birds, to the sight of light at the window. Begin to the roar of morning traffic all along Pembroke Road. Every beginning is a promise, born in light and dying in dark. Determination and exultation of springtime, flowering the way to work. Begin to the pageant of queuing girls, to the arrogant loneliness of swans in the canal, to bridges linking the past and future, to old friends passing, though with us still. Though we live in a world that dreams of ending, that always seems about to give in, something that will not acknowledge conclusion insists that we forever begin. Begin. That's for you, Rita.
Agus isise leir sesin son an lucht féchanna. Dúirt sin a rudí a hasí gwine rá leis an ban álann seo, agus hábhail sin nómad de gachtainna.
Bhí caidir speisialta ag Brendan lena iníon dúdal, ban a dulling le feiban na Márchláin sa Harnam léanta. Bhí sé na chrán taca aice.
Da bhí saoil tragóideach aice agus scoil sé sin go mór Brendan. Is cuine mé ráiliom uair amháin as béle dúirt sé ag seaachna scríneoirí. He said, "My own demons I don't fear, but when I see the demons in Doodle, he said, I tremble."
Doodle unfortunately predeceased him of sudden adult death syndrome about 6 months before he died. And in some ways, the fact that he had begun that long journey, the long goodbye basically of dementia, meant he didn't realise the full impact of it. And I think that was in some ways a blessing because they were extraordinarily close all of their lives.
By Dante Brendan Kennelly á Irish go dó na neor. Chua séirt lína féidirne, I mí ar a fóver, fiche hían.
Cuireadh Brendan Kennelly a gréin na chiile I rélig bhainisteoir lislach thaoin I mé lá Longfort an Nuv in éanach na bhhainser I dúisceart chiaí.
A ghoine na níine ar a bheanachar marthaigh sé in áid clothair, ciúin, ceolmhar, riamh mar chuoine. Don saoil mór agus don todhchaí tuair go héin go néan fí díon stadéir ar an saothar. Agus ligfar titim de mór chuid sin an gnáród. Ach cuireadh sé úna ar mórán na tar an saoil inis. Cén líon de gáanta brandán a chamad fí sa todhchaí.
I think it does go back to childhood, that the poet is there to write. In one way, for other people, not to make himself. Though I think as the years go on then, and you realise that it has this grip on you, that words have this grip on you, you realise it is your life in a strange way. And you try to be truthful to it.
Is brontanas a bhí an really doing galéir. Tá mé chub buíoch go mé sa glún a raibh seans agam a bheith san hála leis, san seomraid stin sin ag fálam wai, ach ag fálam níomháin as an lehanach a faoin saoil chomá.
Tá anna gan ag muintir an gná muintir na héireann agus sasanna comáinis agus America. Tá anna gan acu dá chuid firíochta tá éireacht le feiscint na daltaí na miclaí na bhíige. Tá éireacht le fáil sna dáanta.
Bhí gráig daoine do brandán, you know? Agus é tiltte aige. Bhí sé tiltte aige. But go gine grábhar é. You know? Sin focan nach cloiste go minic níos seach. Bhí sé grábhar.